Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports Plus. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down our pick'em and predictions for NFL Week 3. Crazy, we're already through 2 weeks of the NFL season. There's been so many fun games. Football is back in full swing. Of course, college football is going crazy. The NFL is going crazy. Mock drafts are going to be coming back to this channel too here. So there's a lot of stuff that you guys need to see on the channel. Make sure you guys do leave a like on today's video. Also, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, link is in the description. Discord, there's an NFL Discord. So if you want to chat with some other people who like the NFL like you do, that's a great place to be. In today's video, we're going to talk about money line pick 'em and predictions, but we will also maybe cover some money line, especially in the comment section. So if you have a question about money line or in covering the spread, feel free to ask that. Austin likes to read all those comments and see what you guys are saying. So let's jump into it now, Austin, with week 3. Let's get into our pick'em records. And guys, I warned you before the season. I warned you before week 2. Look at me there. I'm on the cusp of mediocre. Okay, that's probably the best you're going to get out of me all year long. Austin knows I'm a 500 player at best, 16-16. I don't know how I'm here. It's miraculous. The Jaguars let me down in week 2. Here's a little bit of foreshadowing. I'm picking them again in week 3. That's my lock of the week. Austin, 21-11. How does it feel? This is the 3rd straight year Austin's up on the throne. 5-game advantage. We're only through 2 weeks. He's on pace to beat me by about 70 games this year. How does that feel, Austin?
Yeah, there's a lot of season yet to go. So I don't anticipate you playing 500 ball the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be well below that. So I'm glad you said that. And don't check my math on that 70 game difference. I know it's 45, but Austin hasn't even played his best brand to pick him yet. So we're going to get to that in today's video. Let's jump forward now into our first game of the week. And it's a fun one, or at least that's what we would have thought before the season started. Now we got the Giants coming in. They did have a huge comeback win. Started off the second half really, really well, and they needed that. The first 6 quarters of the NFL season, the Giants laid a huge goose egg, not scoring at all. But second half, they come back against a really bad Arizona Cardinals team, end up getting into the win column, really huge for them. But we still have the 49ers pulling this one out. These are 2 storied franchises here, the Giants and Niners. Austin, why did the 49ers win this one?
49ers are going to control this game throughout. I think with the variety of pass rushers that they can throw at you, a lot of different things are in favor of the San Francisco 49ers. The Giants have to figure out a lot of different things here quick. With Saquon Barkley being out of this game, it's going to change the offense in totality. They're going to have to throw the football more effectively, which they haven't been able to do this season throughout the first 2 games. But a lot of things have to change. Brian Daboll's going to have to be a little bit of flexible in his game plan moving forward, and they got to adjust on the fly. And this is a disastrous start for this team so far.
Yeah, for me, the big concern here is going to be that trench play. You look back to their matchup against Dallas to start the year, and they just got dominated up front by that Dallas pressure. And you look at San Francisco, there's not really going to be let up there. That team is really tough, of course. Before the year, they got the deal done with Bosa, and that team is just really, really good. I think they're clicking in a lot of different ways, and the 49ers are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC. And I just think the Giants come up short here. On Thursday night going into San Francisco. It's just a tough environment, tough situation for them, and it's really difficult for me to see them coming out with a win. Let's jump forward into our next set here, and of course, that is the Sunday slate of games. Super excited to break these ones down for you guys. Again, leave those comments, asking questions in the comment section. Let's get into it with our first matchup here. We're looking at a matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. And look, the Colts have been a pretty fun, feel-good story this year. They had a competitive week 1 against the Jaguars. No surprise they lost that game. But then they had a really nice week 2, especially with how they started against the Houston Texans, with Anthony Richardson scoring 18 fantasy points in standard leagues in basically the first quarter and a half. But then he goes down with a concussion. Currently, I would say operating under the fact that we would believe Anthony Richardson will not play this week against the Baltimore Ravens, who, yes, Austin, the Ravens, they're dealing with their own set of injuries, but they're just the better football team here, especially without that X factor on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at the Baltimore Ravens as they're going to be a team that is going to play very well throughout the course of the season. Lamar Jackson being back for a full healthy season, hopefully, is going to change the trajectory of this team from what we had seen last year. He's a winning quarterback just throughout his career, has a high win percentage with this team, regardless of the personnel groups around him. I know J.K. Dobbins is not playing, but they have a nice collection of running backs that can get the job done. Justice Hill and, Gus Edwards are two complementary backs to each other. And I think they're going to make this run game work, especially with the dynamism of Lamar Jackson with his legs still to this point. With the Colts, I mean, they were pretty impressive last week, excuse me. And I think that they can have a very solid game, but they have to go into Baltimore and beat a very consistent team. I don't know if they have enough juice heading into this one.
The beautiful thing about having a guy like Gardner Minshew is not only can he be like a nice positive locker room influence, but he can step in and play well in dire need. And that's, of course, how his career started with the Jaguars. And now stepping in last week, he did a nice job. Hopefully he can continue that for Indianapolis. But Baltimore coming off an emotional win against Cincinnati, they find themselves in a spot here to really take a commanding start and a commanding lead in that AFC North. Really, really good beginning of the season for them. Let's jump forward now as we look into our next matchup, and it's the Tennessee Titans heading into Cleveland. Look, the Titans surprised me this past week. They played much better than I was expecting them to in what was a pretty good win for them. I just don't see that sustaining, though. For me, the Cleveland Browns, yes, there's a little bit of a disadvantage here for them. They are playing Monday Night Football compared to where, Tennessee has that extra day of rest and kind of scheming for this game. Austin, how much do you think that impacts a matchup like this, and how comfortable do you feel with your Browns pick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't absolutely love it. I think when you look at the Tennessee Titans, they embody a lot of toughness, especially in that front seven, bottling up the run. A lot of this game is going to be on the right arm of Deshaun Watson, him making plays outside of the pocket, more specifically, finding guys downfield. Amari Cooper is going to have to be big in this one. Donovan Peoples-Jones, another impact player. But at the end of the day, I think that these Browns receivers have to step up in a massive way. They're going to have to play on the perimeter because the Titans in totality, they're going to be tough to stop. Obviously stopping the run for them, Derrick Henry is going to be a massive force as he always is. But to me, Cleveland gets a little bit of a nod here with them being at home, playing at the dog pound, and they're a tough team moving forward.
Yeah, of course, the running back situation is important to watch. Derrick Henry, we know what he is as a freight train of a running back, but also Nick Chubb, who did get injured in Monday Night Football. We'll have to monitor that situation and kind of how that plays out here for Cleveland, not only this week, but going forward. Jumping into our next game, we look at a matchup here between the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. Look, I felt really good about my Falcons pick this past week. They pulled it out for me in really, really good fashion in what was a really tight game against Green Bay, but I don't see them getting 2 wins in a row against NFC North opponents. The Lions, a little bit of a letdown losing to the Seahawks in the way that they did. Of course, the Seahawks brought that blue ski mask into their locker room afterward. Austin, the Lions here, what do you like about them? I know we both expected them to win in week 2. They didn't get it done. How do they bounce back in week 3?
I think a heavier dose of Jahmyr Gibbs is in line with his ability to create big plays, having him be a big impact guy. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the main focus of this team, but it's the other guys that have to step up in this offense. Ben Johnson, week in, week out, always has a really good game plan put together. I think the Atlanta Falcons, the key for them is running the football effectively, which they've been able to do this year with a multitude of backs. Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, 2 nice running backs that they've been able to, really focus on and continue to build this offense through. That is no surprise with Arthur Smith being the offensive genius behind this group. But the fact of the matter is the Falcons are able to win tight games. And I think that this very well could be a tightly contested matchup, but I just trust Dan Campbell's team a little bit more.
Battle between 2 first-round running backs. Austin, I'm going to put you on the spot here. For fantasy owners out there, in a standard PPR, full point PPR league, I'm going to set the over-under at 34.5 points combined from Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. How likely is that?
I think in this kind of game, they're going to hit the over on that. And I feel pretty confident. I mean, that's a very lofty number, I think, in totality of between 2 running backs. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of passing down situations. They're going to be throwing the ball to their running backs in space, trying to create some massive opportunities for them. But I see this potentially being a shootout with 2 defenses that are improving. However, they're not to the level of the elite tiers at this current moment.
This one will be a very enjoyable game. I'm looking forward to this one a lot coming up on Sunday. Let's jump forward into our next one. Now, again, guys, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for more content here at Utility Sports Plus. The New Orleans Saints head into Green Bay. And the Saints, at this point, coming off of a win against Carolina on Monday night, you have to feel pretty good about the way that they're trending, the kind of football that they've played so far this year. And they have a tough challenge here. Green Bay, of course, a disappointing loss for them against the Falcons. They have a good opportunity here, though, to cement themselves still in that NFC North race. After the Lions lost, the Bears are 0-2, the Vikings are 0-2. They're still right in the thick of things here at the beginning of the season at the forefront of the NFC North. Austin, how important is this kind of win for Green Bay?
Yeah, Green Bay desperately needs this to stay in that NFC North race, which is one of the most tightly contested towards the top that we have in the entire league. Now, I'm not saying this is the most talented division, but in terms of the actual separation between teams 1 through 3, in my opinion, very, very close. Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit are all right there. Now, I think that this could be a monumental win. The Packers playing at home, hopefully having Aaron Jones and Christian Watson back. That was a big factor in last game. I mean, they were very close with Atlanta on the road, but at the end of the day, they have to have those guys back. They're big time playmakers. Aaron Jones is much better than AJ Dillon, in my opinion, and Christian Watson just adds another element to the offense of explosiveness. Therefore, I think this gives them the competitive edge heading into the game.
Injuries, of course, always play a massive factor into some of these matchups week to week. So recording the time we do Monday night after the Monday night games, sometimes the injury status isn't fully clear to us. So be a little forgiving in that regard if some statuses come out later in the week. Let's jump forward into our next game. We look at a matchup here between the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars. Someone take a screenshot right now. Austin's picking the Jaguars. Historically, he's trended away from doing that. Now, listen, guys, last week I picked the Jaguars over the Chiefs. They lost by 1 score. For me, I think that's a fluke. I don't know how the Chiefs got so lucky. I don't know. Jaguars are going to win here by 21 points at least. That's my lock of the week. Austin, what's your thoughts on this game?
I don't know. I think that Jacksonville shouldn't be so confident. They have actually struggled against Houston as of recently. So regardless of roster and how heavily they've been favored, Houston seems to continue to present them a lot of different fits for whatever reason. Doesn't matter the personnel, the coaching staff. But whatever reason, Houston seems to have the Jags number. But at the end of the day, we have to go with the more talented team, the team that's playing at home, and the team that is favored in this one. I just think that Trevor Lawrence and this receiving core is going to be a little bit too much for the Texans. The Texans do have something in C.J. Stroud. I think they do. When you look at his first 2 weeks here so far, he's been a little more impressive than people had thought he was going to start as. But in this matchup, expect a heavy dose of Calvin Ridley as well as Christian Kirk, Zay Jones getting into the mix. This is a tough receiving core to stop at this point.
Yeah, a couple of fun wide receiver weapons in this one. You look at a guy like Tank Dell, who scored his first NFL touchdown this past week. Of course, CJ Stroud delivered it to him. Those two have a very good off the field relationship and on the field as well. So a lot of interesting weapons. We'll keep our eyes on those guys moving forward. Let's jump into our next game. We look at a matchup here between the Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins. And look, I've seen some overreactions on Twitter saying that Sean Payton's the worst coach in the NFL. Maybe the Broncos should fire him. People probably need to hit the patience button here a little bit, not the panic button as much. Austin, we still both feel really good about the Dolphins here at home. The Dolphins are playing really, really great football. They've had really good competitive close wins up to this point, something that you can feel good about, and the team being able to take care of business, and that's what they're looking to do here at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of looking at, obviously we knew that through the air, they're going to be super dynamic with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Those two are one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire league, if not the best. That's up for consideration, but I think they present a strong case. However, the part that there were some questions offensively was, are they going to be running the football effectively? I think Raheem Mostert has found a very nice groove in the first 2 games of the season, and their ability to change out backs seamlessly is another plus in this offense because it's so running back friendly in terms of what it provides. So at the end of the day here, there's not a lot of pressure on the running back to perform, but when they do, it's a very, very big advantage for Miami because they're obviously slinging the football around. Tua is on time, on target, generally speaking. But against Denver here, I do feel pretty good. Denver does provide some challenges with how good their defense is, how good the cornerback play is, more specifically Patrick Surtain. But at the end of the day, I think that's not enough to overcome this Miami Dolphins offense. And I think the Dolphins defense is going to be opportunistic in this one. I think Russ throws 2 picks.
Dolphins will have to overcome another good young corner like you highlighted in Patrick Surtain. Of course, this past week faced Christian Gonzalez, who ended up playing pretty well in that one. We'll keep our eyes on this matchup, though. I'm excited for it. Let's jump forward into our next game now. We look at a matchup here between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. And to be honest, these are two teams that historically over the last decade or so have been pretty good football teams. They put good products on the field, a lot of talent typically. Although, Austin, I think this might be one of our most blag games of the week. Both teams are 0-2. They've been playing non-inspiring football. Now, listen, Justin Jefferson, he's super exciting to watch, super electric. The Chargers have a lot of fun weapons. Kirk Cousins been delivering the ball pretty well if he could just stop the fumbling issue that he's had, and a lot of that stemmed from the offensive line play. Dalton Risner, who we highlighted last week, Austin, is now a Minnesota Viking as we predicted in last week's video. So now I'm looking at this matchup, and when we were off air, I said I wanted to predict a tie because these two teams, I didn't want to pick a winner. That's how I really felt about it coming in. I landed on the Vikings, at home, US Bank Stadium. It does give them an advantage. The Chargers have to travel all the way out from SoCal up to Minnesota. That is a pretty lengthy trip. Maybe that helps the Vikings out, especially getting some skull chance at home. Now, it didn't help them week 1 against Tampa Bay. So there's some issues that both of these teams have, and I just didn't like either matchup. Why did you ultimately land on the Chargers here?
I think regardless of the status of Austin Eckler in this game, I still feel actually fairly confident in the Chargers and their aerial attack. I don't think Minnesota has the corners to sustain a very good game plan against Justin Herbert. Obviously going to Keenan Allen, who got going last week, absolutely got going, and they're firing on all cylinders in that regard. Brandon Staley has been pretty defensive in some of his interviews. He knows the pressure's mounting. And I think with him, he understands how critical this game is. Now, there's not nearly as much pressure on Kevin O'Connell, considering the 13-win season he just had, but there are some question marks with Justin Jefferson heading into his contract season. What is that going to look like? And I think for them, winning is going to be one of the most important pieces of retaining him. The money comes first, and then it's the winning aspect of it. So I think when you look at the LA Chargers, they're just better equipped. They're going to win on the aerial attack side of things, and they should win this football game.
Of course, the defense was a huge issue last year for the Minnesota Vikings. Under Ed Donatel, this year under Brian Flores, they actually ranked number 1 in blitz percentage, which also gives the Chargers opportunities to perhaps attack down the field one-on-one with some of those wide receivers where they should have an actual advantage in terms of their on-paper talents. We'll see how much that impacts this matchup. Let's jump into our next one now, where we look at a matchup here and a really, really storied matchup where the Patriots usually go and kick the butt of the New York Jets. And Austin, we're sticking with that here. The Patriots might have also discovered something this past week with a little bit of a running head start to get a field goal block. First of all, do you think that's going to be something we see more and more going forward? And then secondly, why did you pick the Patriots here? And will Zach Wilson be seeing ghosts?
Yeah, and I think it's a copycat league, so you're definitely going to see that moving forward, but more so on the matchup here. It was tough for me because as much of a Jets homer as I've been here throughout the course of these videos, I just do not know. I do not know what to expect. I think this could be a heavy Zach Wilson turnover game. Bill Belichick is phenomenal at disguising his defenses and confusing younger quarterbacks, which has been tried and true throughout the course of time. Now, it's tough because the Patriots are on the road here, but Zach Wilson is going to have to perform. Tough game, very, very tough game against Dallas, holistically speaking, across the board for the entire team. But, maybe they find some rhythm here, bounce back. But I think New England might sneak one of their signature wins out.
For some of the viewers who want to kind of get to know us a little bit better, I'm a New York Jets fan. Austin hypes up the Jets all the time to try and, make me feel cringe. The one thing I'm going to say, Austin, is you have yet to pick the Jets this year in a single game, and I'm going to remember that going forward. Let's jump into our next one now. We look at a matchup here between the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Commanders. And last week, Austin, we called it a huge kind of coming back to form, regain form type of game for the Bills where they just shredded the Las Vegas Raiders. And of course, Devontae Adams now injured after that game as well. We'll talk about that later. But Austin, the Bills, they head into Washington here. Commanders are playing great football. They have to feel really good about how everything's turned out from them. You think back to that Chris Olave trade that they pulled off with the Saints where they got a bunch of picks. Most of those picks have hit. They've turned into a lot of really nice pieces for the Commanders, but yet we're still going with the Bills on the road. How much of this is just how great the Bills are and less about how the Commanders are playing?
I mean, the Commanders are playing really good football, playing good brand of football, running the football effectively, being able to be opportunistic through the air. a lot of playmakers on this team, and that's the reason why that Sam Howell's been able to somewhat succeed in this offense. But I look at the Buffalo Bills as a team that, generally speaking, dominate the regular season, and it really comes from wins like this, signature marquee wins on the road against a decent Commanders team. Now, I don't think any of us would go on a whim and say that this is a really great team after their start, but I think they are pleasantly surprising is probably the best way to coin that. I think that Buffalo gets the job done on the road. Josh Allen should have another big game. He's going to feel some pressure, though, so he's going to have to dial back some of the turnovers here, take sacks when needed, because there are going to be some times where he could try to throw up a prayer and it gets picked off. I think Sean McDermott has really hit home the fact on protecting the football. I think that does actually carry into this week's game.
This is Washington's first time starting the season 2-0 since 2011. So they're kind of playing with house money at this point. Maybe they can begin this Cinderella run with a 3-0 start if they pull off some magic against the Bills this week. Jumping forward into our next game, we look at a matchup here between the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. And Austin, before the year, I talked about how I thought the Panthers were going to be one of, if not the worst team in the league, which, of course, there is a little bit of risk there with them trading their pick to the Bears in the fashion that they did to move up to get Bryce Young. Now, look, he looked a lot better in week 2. Good, close, competitive matchup against the Saints. They ended up not getting that win. Seahawks have a really nice win, a really emotional win, I'd say, for them after how much of a letdown week 1 was for them. How do the Seahawks kind of ride that high and go into week 3 here as the favorites at home?
Yeah, I think the key for them is running the football like they generally do. They love running the football, controlling pace, limiting turnovers, and being opportunistic with the play action pass game. And that's really playing to the strength of the Seattle Seahawks, which are going to be able to run the football effectively. I expect Kenneth Walker to have a big game in this one. So if you own him in fantasy, definitely think he's going to hit the over on 15 and a half fantasy points if that's what you would set it at. But to me, Seattle Seahawks, I feel pretty confident with them playing at home. Carolina's got a lot of things to figure out, especially offensively. Who's going to make the plays on the perimeter? That's the big question I have moving forward with them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something they struggle with throughout the year. The Seahawks, improved young secondary. They're going to take care of business here and win this game, I'd say, pretty handedly. Let's jump forward into our next game now. We look at a matchup here between the Dallas Cowboys, who are maybe playing the best football that we've seen them play this century, and they're going into Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Austin, how impressed are you with the Cowboys, and why is this game not even going to be competitive?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's going to have their hands full, and they're not going to move the ball on offense at the rate that they do. They're going to take a ton of sacks during the course of the game. Micah Parsons is going to get after it. Dallas presents so many different looks and opportunities, for their receivers. It's fun to watch them. It really is. Tony Pollard has been just as good as advertised. He's explosive. He's a big upgrade over Zeke as the full-time starter. Tony Pollard is the real deal. Cowboys' offensive line has looked great. Defensively, they swarm. They create havoc. And if you own them in fantasy right now, they're the third highest scoring, quote, player in that grouping.
Yeah, it's not surprising. They face my New York Jets, so you expect them to be in that kind of tier. But no, the Cowboys have been great. It's just they've been so much better than I think even people were expecting. I think the hopes for them coming in were pretty high, but they've just been dominant. There's a real argument to them being the best defense in the NFL. I'm sure that I feel that way, to be honest. So just looking at the team holistically, they're playing really, really good right now, and I expect that to continue through week 3 here pretty comfortably. Let's jump forward into our next game. We look at a matchup here between the Chicago Bears and the Kansas City Chiefs. And Austin, Bears, is there a little bit of panic right now around Justin Fields on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it these days? I've been seeing a lot of Bears fans a little disappointed in Fields' start to the season. I know there's been so much buzz around him. The Chiefs, they've got the guy in Patrick Mahomes with a brand new contract too, pretty important to note. But Austin, I think it comes down really for the Bears long term. How does Fields play, and what's your confidence level in him, not only for this game, but going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a little bit of reason for concern, but I don't think everything falls on his shoulders. As much as people want to blame him, yeah, I mean, he's definitely had some lows of lows, through the two games that we've seen him play. But at the end of the day, there's some other guys on this team that need to step up, more particularly Chase Claypool, who has been super ineffective and is going to actually go down as probably one of the worst trades in Bears history. The fact that they gave up a second round pick for him, and now they are considering rerouting him potentially for significantly less draft capital after 1 year of completely diminished returns. To me, it's a little bit scary, but going back to the matchup itself, Kansas City should walk away with this one. Chris Jones has been huge for them. Looking back at that Jags game, was a disruptor, caused a lot of issues for the Jags interior offensive line. I think that's going to be the same case here. They have the athleticism on that second level, more specifically with guys like Nick Bolton to chase down, Justin Fields. So to me, I think they match up very well across the board.
Yeah, I think the big thing here for the Bears is if they can utilize the quick game. Can they get the ball out of Justin Fields' hands to some of those playmakers? They tried to do that in this most recent matchup against the Buccaneers. Of course, Fields threw a pick six to Shaq Barrett. I don't think people had that on their bingo card before that matchup. So it's not only about executing just in terms of their passing offense, it's about executing in some of those specific situations, like getting the ball out quick and getting it to those playmakers on time and on target to set up bigger plays. Let's jump into our next one. We look at a matchup here between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Austin, I went with the Raiders here kind of as that sneaky, like not really people expecting them to win this game. Now, historically, I am terrible at picking Las Vegas Raiders. So if I'm watching the video right now, I'd probably say, don't listen to Glasses guy. Go do what the other dudes say and pick the Steelers. Austin, what's your thoughts on this matchup? Why am I way off base with this pick?
I don't know if way off base is the correct way to coin this selection, but I don't have a ton of confidence in Josh McDaniels right now. I think that they've played a little better than I've expected. They've been in some games here. I don't know. I don't love the Raiders. I don't love what they have to offer here. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't light my world on fire. And, I just don't have a lot of confidence in them. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to need to string together a couple of wins to really stay in it in that AFC North. That's super tight and competitive. Arguably, the best division in football. You could make that argument. But the Steelers here, I think with a very signature Mike Tomlin win, makes a lot of sense to me. They have to get the guys going on the outside. I think that's the most important thing. And they got to run the football better. And this stems back to the issues that they had last year of an offensive line that struggled to find a true identity, true grit. And I just don't think they have it yet. Maybe it's going to take a little while to mesh, but they have a lot of talent on this team. Young offensive pieces that could be stars in the league. I firmly do believe that. I think they match up pretty well against the Raiders, which the Raiders are going to see a ton of different looks and pressures on Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're going to have to keep him upright.
The Raiders' real X factor here, of course, is Max Crosby. The Steelers also, TJ Watt set the team record in sacks. So credit to him. And I think the one big thing, if you're a Raiders fan here, is you're hoping that this is a little bit more of a fair matchup than the Antonio Brown trade played out a few years ago. Let's jump forward into our next game now, where we're seeing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Now, really great matchup here. And the Eagles, look, they're probably going to be favored in this game, we would expect at this current juncture, but the Buccaneers are 2-0. The defense has been fantastic. Devin White rescinded his trade request on Instagram. He loves being a part of that defense, he says. Baker Mayfield's playing inspired, consistent, good football through 2 weeks. Now, can we see that through 3 weeks against the team that was just in the Super Bowl? That's a huge question. And honestly, Austin, I think that's one we would both probably bet against. Now, week 2, we didn't feel comfortable really with the Buccaneers. You did pick them against the Bears. I did not. Austin, I'm going to pick the Eagles here. I do have a little bit of buyers beware, though. Mike Evans is playing great. The Buccaneers are moving the football down the field better than I would have expected. Why is this a game that people should be a little weary of?
I think it's because they've looked a little different offensively if you're referring to Philadelphia. They haven't had that same rhythm and flow that we had seen last year. Jalen Hurts seems a little bit uncomfortable. And I think this all comes from the offensive and defensive coordinator changes. It's tough sometimes to play super great football and not win it all. And I mean, they really lost a lot on the coaching staff side of things. I think that's probably the biggest change here with Steichen out the door. You're having to make some adjustments on the fly. You're having to do a lot of different meshing, which I don't think people realize how much goes into the offensive play calling and what it means to be a coordinator in this league for a top tier offense. They have a lot of playmakers, and now it's all about utilizing it. AJ Brown has expressed his frustration here so far, and I think that very well could continue in this game. But to me, the Philadelphia Eagles are the pick.
Yeah, week 2, we saw a little bit of frustration between Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, but there was some also really notable performances Devontae Smith had a really big long touchdown against the Vikings in week 2 on Thursday Night Football. You also look at DeAndre Swift, who had an incredible game in that one. So a lot of kudos to some of those skill players for the Eagles. We'll see if they can continue playing better and better as the year goes on. And the beautiful thing about early in the season, we have another Monday Night Football matchup. Let's jump into that one. 2 Monday night games again this week. Really excited for that. The Los Angeles Rams head into Cincinnati, and people are probably pausing the video, going to the comment section right now and saying, wow, these guys are stupid. The Bengals are 0-2. Why are they picking them? The same thing happened last year, Austin. You and I never lost faith or confidence in a Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, Jamar Chase-led team. And look, I know they haven't played great. In fact, I would say they played the opposite. They played pretty poorly so far. But I think this is a team that it's a find your footing team. I said that last week as well. I think as the year progresses, they're going to get better and better and better. It's going to be a tough matchup. The Rams are playing really well. Awesome. I'm going to ask you here, over under 12.5 catches for Puka Nacua in week 3. What's your thoughts on that? And then get into the matchup itself.
I think that we're going to actually see the under on that one. That's a very lofty over-under. However, it's a fair one considering how the first 2 weeks have gone for him. But to me, I look at the Cincinnati Bengals team as a team that needs it worse than any other team potentially in the league of all the 0-2 teams. So many expectations with the talent across the board, offensively, defensively. They have playmakers scattered. But I think offensively, they have to find a rhythm. They have to find a flow. And this was some of the concerns I had voiced about this Bengals team during the start of the season, was Joe Burrow missing a significant amount of time, especially during camp, the preseason. There's a lot of things that he missed out on, which affects the overall flow and game plan heading into a week-to-week basis. To me, the Rams are a team that are refreshed, revitalized, kind of fun, a little bit mysterious, sexy. I love it. But to me, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get the job done on Monday Night Football, and people will be hush mode.
This is going to be a really exciting matchup. Again, 2 kind of polarizing teams right now. The Rams, of course, getting it done through the air, specifically with Puka Nacua a ton. The Bengals have not been getting it done as much. We'll see if this is a big bounce back week for them. Really excited for this week of games. Again, if you guys are, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. We should be there already. If you're still watching, please smash that subscribe button. Don't forget, Discord's in the description. Go join that. Go talk some football with some of your buddies in there. Make some new friends talking NFL football. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports Plus video.